The story begins with a drawing, a peculiar one, filled with imagination and wonder. A young boy, full of creativity, had sketched a boa constrictor swallowing an elephant. For those who don't know, a boa constrictor is a snake that kills its prey by squeezing it to death. To the boy, this was a masterpiece, a symbol of awe and danger, capturing the wild beauty of nature. But when he showed it to the adults around him, they didn't see what he saw. "It's a hat," they said. Confused and disappointed, the boy tried again, drawing the boa constrictor with the elephant clearly visible inside. Yet the adults still couldn't understand. They insisted it was just a hat. Frustrated, the boy gave up drawing. He moved on, as children often do, and grew up to become a pilot. Life became practical, logical, nothing like the world of creativity he once knew. But all that changed when years later his plane crashed in the Sahara Desert. There, stranded alone, the boy, or rather, a grown man now, would meet someone who could see the world with the same wonder and clarity he once had. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, the boy reflects. And so, faced with their inability to see, he gave up drawing altogether. He grew up, leaving behind the world of wild creativity, and became a pilot. Life turned practical, predictable, and ordinary, until the day his plane crashed in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Stranded in the vast emptiness of sand and sky, he was fixing his engine when a small, unexpected voice spoke. "Please, draw me a sheep." Startled, the pilot turned to see a boy unlike any he'd ever encountered. His golden hair glistened in the sunlight, and his curious eyes seemed to hold secrets no one else could fathom. The boy repeated his request. "Draw me a sheep." It wasn't a question. It was a gentle demand, one that carried the weight of innocence and wonder. The pilot, bewildered but intrigued, found himself drawing again for the first time since childhood. His first few attempts didn't satisfy the boy until he hastily sketched a box and said, "The sheep you want is inside." To his surprise, the boy beamed with joy. This boy was the little prince. Slowly, piece by piece, he began sharing his story. The prince came from a tiny planet, so small it could be circled in just a few steps. It was home to 3 volcanoes, one dormant, and a single troublesome plant, the baobabs. He explained how he had to be vigilant, uprooting baobab sprouts every day to prevent them from taking over his planet. But what he cherished most on his planet wasn't the volcanoes or the baobabs. It was a rose. She had appeared one day, delicate and radiant. The rose was beautiful, but also vain and demanding. She insisted on constant attention, often exaggerating her importance. "I am unique in all the universe," she would say. At first, the prince adored her, tending to her every whim. But over time, he grew frustrated with her vanity, unsure if she truly cared for him. So, he decided to leave his planet, setting off on a journey to understand the world and himself. On his travels, he visited 6 planets, each inhabited by a curious character. The first planet belonged to a king who claimed to rule over everything, yet his commands were meaningless. "I am the most powerful king in the universe," he declared. But the prince saw through him. His power was an illusion, grounded in titles, but not action. The second planet housed a conceited man who craved admiration. "Clap your hands together," he said, "so I can be the most admired person here." The prince found it sad. This man lived for applause, for validation from others. Yet he was entirely alone. On the third planet lived a drunkard, trapped in a cycle of shame and escape. "Why do you drink?" the prince asked. "To forget," the drunkard replied. Forget what? That I am ashamed of drinking. It was a vicious cycle, one the prince couldn't comprehend, but pitied deeply. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman, counting stars and claiming to own them all. I am concerned with matters of consequence, he said, consumed by greed and numbers. The prince wondered how anyone could feel joy in owning something as vast and untouchable as the stars. On the fifth planet, the prince met a lamplighter, a man trapped in an endless routine of lighting and extinguishing a lamp every minute. Though his task was absurd, the prince admired his devotion. At least he thinks of something beyond himself, the prince thought. The sixth planet was the home of a geographer who recorded knowledge but never explored the world himself. I am too important to leave my desk, the geographer said. The prince realized that knowledge without experience was hollow, and that exploration mattered far more than mere facts. Finally, the little prince arrived on Earth. At first, he was overwhelmed by its size and the vast number of people. In a garden full of roses, he discovered something that broke his heart. His rose wasn't unique. She was just one of many. But then the prince met a fox. The fox changed everything. "Tame me," the fox said, explaining that taming meant creating a bond, making someone unique through love and care. The prince hesitated, but the fox taught him a truth he would carry forever. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The prince finally understood. His rose wasn't just a flower. It was his rose because of the time he had spent with her, the care he had given her. The fox's lesson echoed in his heart. Love isn't about appearances. It's about the invisible connections we create. But the prince's journey was nearing its end. In the desert, he encountered a snake who promised to help him return to his rose. The snake spoke of death, not as an end, but as a way home. "I can take you farther than any ship could," the snake said, its words mysterious and unsettling. The prince accepted. He spent his final moments with the narrator, their bond deepened by shared stories and laughter. Before leaving, the prince said, "You, only you, will have stars that can laugh, and when you look at them, you'll think of me." Then, under the starlit sky, the snake struck. The prince's body fell, lifeless, but his spirit remained. The narrator repaired his plane and left the desert, forever changed by the boy who taught him to see the world with fresh eyes. Now, when he looks at the stars, he hears laughter. The little prince is gone, but his lessons live on. Cherish the bonds you create, see with your heart, and never lose the wonder of a child. And if you ever find yourself in the desert and meet a boy with golden hair, please let him know the narrator is waiting for him.